3, 4. The memories of a man in his old age are the deeds of a man in his prime.
I think the defining moment was when Pink Floyd put out Atom Heart Mother and the front cover was a cow. I loved the idea that you could have a job where you photographed a cow instead of the group. That's just such a great, cool thing to be able to do. And I thought that would be a cool job to have. I started off doing live shows, and one of the best ones was Ziggy Stardust last night at Hammersmith Odeon. And I think I realised that I had quite a talent for doing that sort of stuff, that this was actually what I wanted to do for a living. And then when I got a job on the NME, all of a sudden you actually got to meet these people. And the way it was done then, they'd be sitting on a bed, they'd be talking to the journalist, and you'd be taking pictures whilst they were talking. I started to wonder if this was the best way to do it. And I thought perhaps if we'd had a few moments with the groups or the artists, that you could take better pictures if they were actually aware that you had a camera and that you were pointing it at them. You know, these pictures were done very quickly, some of them in 15 to 20 seconds. Sometimes a group shot would take 3 or 4 minutes. I always came prepared, always knew where to go, where to put them, how to stand them, how to get their attention. You go to someone's house and you do Elton playing the piano in the living room, or Paul McCartney in a recording studio, or you come up with ideas and you do Dave Edmunds with 3 hands, or you bump into Shane MacGowan at a Clash gig. I was always very lucky. I always got people to cooperate. They liked the fact that I had ideas and that I was quick and that it was, relatively painless. I also enjoyed, to a degree, the paparazzi aspect of being on the NME and doing Kiss and Bruce Springsteen at Hammersmith, and the Keith Richards trial gave you a different kind of access where you were with the Fleet Street Pack, and it was cool because they didn't care about me because I was just a young kid from the NME and I was no threat. So I'd hide under tables and just bounce up out of nowhere and take pictures. Well, the first thing is we shot film, and film was expensive, so you took less pictures. The second thing is we had a lot of access. Just generally being the NME, we were allowed pretty good access to people. Sometimes they just give you their phone number and say, phone him up and arrange to meet. But generally, I could go anywhere I wanted with any of the bands, and it was really, really easy to do. I don't think you'll ever see that kind of access again. The game's changed and everybody has a camera and now it's digital and it's a completely different animal. But that's why I got out. I got out when it changed. It is true that a lot of the people have never seen these pictures because I put them in a box and never showed them to anybody. And in some cases, there are pictures that have never been seen simply because the ones that ran in the paper were other ones. But really, it's because I guess in a way this whole show is a 30-year-long piece of performance art, and I just expected everybody to wait 30 years to see their picture. Photographers are notorious for not delivering pictures fast enough. It goes back to a conversation that Elvis Costello's manager and I had, and Pete Townsend and I had back in 81 and 82, about the idea of putting pictures in a box for 25 years and leaving them alone, and seeing whether there was any cultural value in them later. And I took it a stage further to the point of even doing whole portrait sessions with people and never letting any of the pictures out, with this idea that, in 30 years' time, some huge museum would phone me up and say, hey, want to have a show? Your pictures are pretty good. So I waited and waited and waited, and then one phoned up. I think it's a good time to do it. I think it's interesting to have literally kept all of my images off the internet specifically for this show. And I think it's interesting for people to look at the groups and see, A, how young they are, and B, how much the music meant to everybody back then and how long it lasts in their minds and hearts and all that other stuff. And also, no one else is mad enough to hold their pictures back for 30 years thinking a museum's going to phone them up. I mean, that's the truthful answer.